Hello everyone! Mobapad released a new model of their Pro controller, the Mobapad Huben 2. And it's looking pretty good, starting with this carrying case. It really feels premium, it has a nice texture, and it's a hard case too. Inside we have the dongle and an extra Dpad. And a braided USB Type-C cable. The Huben 2 clearly takes some inspiration of the Mobapad M6. After all, this is their best Joy-Con style controller. The buttons are red and transparent with a 3D effect, similar to the FlyDigi Apex 4. The disc D-pad has recessed diagonals. It's just a bit different from the Mobapad M6. And the recessed diagonals doesn't make the D-pad uncomfortable. If you compare to the FlyDigi Apex 4, the diagonals here are a bit recessed too. The triggers are transparent red just like the buttons, and it's almost a perfect copy of the FlyDigi Apex 4. The main difference here is that on the Huben 2, instead of adaptive triggers, you have the switch to change to a digital micro switch, just like the Vader 4 Pro. The click is responsive and the trigger lock is very solid. And again, we have 4 back buttons in the same style as FlyDigi controllers. The face buttons have a nice travel distance, and it won't sink flat with the shell unless you force it. The analog sticks doesn't have internal restriction gates, but it has anti-friction rings and a metal shaft. And they're also removable. The D-pad has clicky mouse switches and a nice pivot in the center. And there's a single RGB light in the center. The shutter buttons are responsive, but they're a bit loud. The controller has rubberized grips, but the rubber here is very hard. I really wanted to confirm if this is really rubber, so I poked it with something sharp. And indeed, the material is rubber. The back buttons located on the grips has a flat design. Here's the Apex 4 for comparison. The D-pad is removable, and you can use the cross-shaped D-pad if you prefer. And it's just as responsive as the disc D-pad. However, it is not very easy to remove. In order to do so, you must remove the faceplate. Since we are here, we can take a look at the analog sticks. And this controller uses capacitive sticks just like the PXN 8K. It is compatible with a Nintendo Switch and it can wake up the console. It has motion controls, and the back buttons can be used as a remap button or a macro button. And remapping the buttons is very easy and intuitive. You can also set the macro in a repeat mode. There is a turbo mode, and on your smartphone you can access the Mobapad app to configure everything on the go. The app is very easy to use and it has a ton of configurations. Unfortunately, the Huben 2 does not have an amiibo reader. The previous model featured a dual rumble function. You could choose between normal rumble or HD rumble. Here on the Huben 2, you have just HD rumble. But on the Huben 2, the quality of the HD rumble is on par with original controllers. Testing on PC, you have only X input. Pressing start and select won't change to D input. But you can flip the switch to the switch mode and it will enable a Switch Pro controller with access to the gyro sensors. The analog sticks has a very small dead zone. No cardinal snapping, and a tiny outer dead zone. The circularity is perfect, and through the app you can enable a slightly wider range. The resolution of the sticks is awesome. It reaches around 2000 steps. The D-pad is awesome too. The diagonals are easy to press by holding only in one direction, and the inputs are super consistent. The pivot in the center also works very well. The triggers has a big dead zone in the analog mode. But if you're playing a shooter, you can change the switch to the digital button and the activation will be very quick. The dongle is awfully similar to the Mobapad D1 adapter, which can connect to Joy-Cons. But unfortunately, the Huben 2 adapter is not able to do so. Before moving to the teardown, let's take a quick look at the box. Under the faceplate we have 6 screws, and the back shell comes off easily. This here seems like a rumble motor, but it's just a magnet for the docking station. Here we can see the HD rumble and added weights. The two sides adds 42 grams to the controller. The battery has 1000 milliamps of capacity. Here's a look at the motherboard, and it has this wire here going up to the trigger. This wire is for the digital switch, which is located inside the trigger. There's also 2 unused connections for a rumble motor. I checked to see if they were functional, but unfortunately they're not. Initially, I thought that these connections were for a dual rumble motor system, but actually it was for adding rumble on the triggers. Just like the Mobapad M6, the face buttons uses Omron mechanical switches. Here's a look at the K-Silver capacitive stick module, and the D-pad uses Omron switches too. The triggers have a metal pivot and a solid construction. Here's the shoulder buttons. Here's the D-pad. And the face button layout, which is fixed. Finally, I checked the latency of the buttons. Since the sticks uses capacitive modules, I won't be able to measure the stick latency. But the results of the buttons is pretty okay. Moving to the final thoughts, the Huben 2 is an amazing controller. It performs very well and it feels very nice in your hands. The functions are very easy to use too, but it feels more like a copy of FlyDigi controllers rather than a unique thing. The first Huben model was the first controller to have dual rumble system, and it was one of the things that made this controller unique. Now with this feature removed, it feels closer to the Vader 3 Pro with HD rumble instead of a new controller. And that's it for this video. The links to the Huben 2 will be in the description of this video. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.